सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारंभं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शंकरं लोकशंकरम् पुराण न्याय मीमांसा धर्मशास्त्रांग मिश्रिताः वेदाः स्थानानि विद्यानां धर्मस्य च चतुर्दश आयुर्वेदो धनुर्वेदो गान्धर्वश्चैव ते त्रयः अर्थशास्त्रं चतुर्थन्तु विद्याः अष्टादशैव ताः ओम शांति शांति शांति. Namaste. I welcome everyone who has joined us today for this Indica conference on contributions of Indian knowledge traditions to the world. Before I touch upon very briefly on this conference in particular, I would like to read out a few lines from our website, indica.in, sentences that speak to the vision, mission of Indica as articulated by our founder, Harikiran Vadlamaniji. The lines go, we are an institute for Indian knowledge systems. We envision the well-being of all beings. We believe integrating Indic wisdom into everyone's everyday lives fosters health, happiness, and harmony. We enable seekers of this wisdom fulfill their potential, passion, and purpose. This is the beginning of a vision statement that is there on our website. For more people can refer to our website. On this particular conference, before I mention the wonderful scholars who have joined us today, I'd like to kind of set the context of why we are doing this. Well before the national education policy, discussions on traditions on Indian knowledge had begun, at least as far back as 2012. If we are talking purely from a government-led initiative's point of view, there was a knowledge tradition and practices in India textbook at the 11th and 12th class level in elective course that were already out. But it is quite clear that after the national education policy, there has been greater focus, and one can see a lot more events at least and discussions about Indian knowledge systems, Indian knowledge traditions, etc. So while Indica itself has organized several talks, even conferences related to Indian knowledge traditions and systems earlier, the focus of this conference, as envisioned by Harikiran Vadlamaniji, was to see if we can put the spotlight on traditions and ideas from India going to other parts of the world. That has been the focus, that has been the driving focus of this particular conference. And to that effect, we've had different scholars join us today. In fact, we had a lot more papers that were presented in response to the call for papers, in fact, about 40 plus papers. But we had to kind of make sure that they're talking to the focus of this particular conference. And Dr. Paturi, in his talk towards the end of the conference today, will touch upon some of the methodological issues in knowledge travel studies and the future scope for IKS studies in that context. With that said, I'd like to briefly mention the different scholars who have been kind enough to make time to be with us, to be with all of you today. We will start our proceedings today with Professor Dr. Subhash Kak, who is a Regent Professor at Oklahoma State University in Stillwater. He is a Padma Award recipient, and he will speak today about Indian Foundations of Modern Science. Now, Indian Foundations of Modern Science is a name of a chapter of this book that Professor Kak has recently released. It has been published recently, actually, this year, if I'm not mistaken, 2023. And like I mentioned, Indian Foundations of Modern Science is one chapter in this particular book. Following him, Dr. C.K. Raju, a well-known professor, also who has particularly on the topic that he's going to speak to us today, and he's titled it How and Why Europeans Stole Calculus from India in the 16th century. So we begin with science, then we go to some aspects of mathematics. Dr. Raj Vedam, who is a visiting faculty at Hindu University of America, would then touch upon the transmission of Indic knowledge systems to the West. That should make for interesting listening as well. That will be followed by Mahamahopadhyay, Dr. Kurada Subramaniam's talk on the Indian theories and Western hypotheses of language. Now, Dr. Subramaniam is the author of, in my view, pretty rare book, Theories of Language, Oriental and Occidental, amongst a few books that I have seen where there is actually such a comparative perspective. And I'm sure he will touch upon some aspects of that in today's talk. Subsequently, we will have Doctors Mrs. and Mr. Padmini Balaram and Singanapalli Balaram. They are a couple, wife and husband. Dr. Padmini Balaram will speak on demand and influence of the Indian textiles on the world. And Dr. Singanapalli Balaramji will speak on the influence of Indian traditions on great world designers. We're delighted to have both of them join us in this particular conference. Finally, we'll have Dr. Bindu Vyas, who would speak on the topic From East to West, the journey of transcendental meditation. Thereafter, last but certainly not the least, Dr. Pathuri will, and sum up this conference, share his impressions after he speaks about what he sees as methodological issues in knowledge travel studies and the future scope for IK studies in this area.